Welcome back to Insight Club, and today we're talking about the ways we access intelligence. Stay tuned.
The first rule of Insight Club is you don't talk about Insight Club. You do Insight Club. The second rule of Insight Club is the only assumptions we make about one another are that we all want happiness and we all want to avoid suffering. The third rule of Insight Club is you check all your other assumptions at the door. We hope these conversations will bring you insights that incite you to action. Welcome to Insight Club.
You ask yourself, where is my mind? Where is my mind? Where is my mind?
So I had some access to intelligence yesterday when I took some time to do some brainstorming and like deep soul storming, right? Those sessions those sessions where you really connect and tune in and you're like, okay, what is the next thing I want to do? What is it my soul is calling me to work on? And then you think through like, what does that look like? And it was in this session that I had a realization that it's been a long time since I've accessed my soul's intelligence at that depth. So there are these times when we see a contrast where we think we're doing the thing until we really do the thing and we're like, oh no, this is it, right? So I had been kind of skimming along the surface of trying to figure out next steps. And it wasn't until I was really in the depth of connection. And this involved a lot of journaling and asking myself questions and responding, and really being in a place where I felt like I was being soul-led as opposed to mind-led, that I went, this is a kind of intelligence that I've been lacking access to simply because I haven't gone there. And then what I'm noticing is that that's rippling forward. So I go for a walk every morning, and this morning I went for my walk, and I also noticed the contrast. Instead of being in a thought loop, where like a very superficial, this is just kind of the chatter in my head, I was having insights. I was having moments of, like, oh, beautiful. I mean, my neighbors probably think I'm a wackadoo because I was getting to the end of my walk and I said out loud, yes, God, I will be happy to bring that idea into the world. Thank you. I will be happy to be the champion of that idea for you, right? Because it really was that feeling of I have accessed an intelligence that is deeper, beyond just me, definitely beyond just mind. And, one of those ideas that you just get tickled by. You're like, oh, I can't wait to put that out into the world. So that's been my recent experience around intelligence and access to intelligence. What's for you? What's coming for you?
Well, I was going to share something that a client shared, but also I had a more synchronic kind of access to intelligence as well. So my client got a similar thing to you. Like she got that access to the messages that come when we are creating that space for the depth of communication, right? So she actually reminded me of that because when we are used to do this, it feels like it's the normal thing, right? And I've been in and out of like connecting and disconnecting many times, so it's always good to have that reminder. And she gave me a feedback talking about our session where we had a clearing of the blockages, and at the end of the clearing she received very clear messages of what were her next steps. So and she mentioned exactly that, like it's that thing that should be natural when we are connected, but in the day-to-day life we are we need to be reminded of that. We need to be guided even to get to that place sometimes. And in the moments where I opened to not follow the regular time, follow the Kairos time, right? Getting out of that chronological thing and just being in the now. What happened was I received a message from a friend who's my neighbor, by the way, and she had the insight, the intuition to send me. It was a live on Instagram that her teacher was doing, and it was late at night. Normally, I would just watch on the other day. Not, it wasn't something that I needed to check at that time, but I thought, let me check that. Okay, I checked that, and a friend who's my colleague in another mentorship that I do was invited into that live, and she was in the city nearby here. So because of that, I ended up messaging her, and we met in person for the first time in the city nearby here to have lunch. And so many synchronic things unfolded already from that. I thought I was just going to get lunch, but yeah, it was like that vortex of time where things start to click, and you see that there's a new path unfolding, all because every person in that interaction were following their intuition.
Yeah. And you see how you talked about clearing the pathway for your client, but you also see how in the moment we can clear the pathway in a different way, maybe for ourselves, by just going like, okay, that and that and that, just like the following yes to that, yes to that, yes to that, yes to that.
Yeah.
And not knowing where it will take you, not having an expectation.
Yeah. And what I mean was, in that moment, through that day, I could see where things are going, right? I was accessing like, I can see now what is unfolding in this city and where I fit in this. So this is the access, the kind of access, if it wasn't clear, the kind of access to intelligence where you kind of foreseen the future. Or is it foreseen? Yeah. You kind of see the future, like the glimpse of it, and things start to make sense. So you know what next steps to take from there. Yeah, that.
That's a way cooler, a way cooler way to be.
It's
Wow.
not cooler. Like you had your next steps like in a message. I had in the interaction and putting together the pieces.
Yeah. So maybe that sheds light on the fact that there's intelligence around us constantly
Yeah.
reaching out.
Hmm.
Like the intelligence is wanting to get access to us.
Yes.
It's the same as we're wanting to get access
We
to the
just need
intelligence.
to stop blocking it because it wants to come to us.
Yeah.
And have you read the book, The Celestine Prophecy?
It's been years and years. So I mean, I may as well say I haven't read it because I just don't remember it.
Okay, but there's this concept of there's these laws that they're seeking, trying to find all of these things, but it's all about people getting together in this open state, and when their energy matches and they are in this open state, things start to unfold, and one connect to the other. The person that you need, that has the information that you need, shows up, and so on. So it's all this interconnected intelligence where everyone is part of the same thing, and things happen naturally in a very harmonic way.
Yeah.
Whereas when we start thinking with like that desire or ego, or like I need to have this, and separation mode, then things start to block. So one, that loving curiosity takes us into one path where everything just falls into place, and that more desire, in a negative way, I mean, and ego-driven desire starts blocking things.
Yeah. You talked about time and being out of time. And I know for me, one of the big blockages to access to intelligence is a feeling of being rushed. And it was something that was actually present for me yesterday. So even as I was like in this access to intelligence, I'd gotten there by starting with this list of like, okay, these are things I should do. And they're very practical. They're very like, make this, email this person, do all of this kind of thing. And a wiser part of me was like, you need to know what you're doing before you start taking action on it, right? This is kind of the bare minimum. But all of those things like email this person and do this, those for me are very time bound and time scarcity. And like, I got to make action in the world. Like I have to do something in 3D reality that I can check off a list. And sitting on the floor for a couple of hours, journaling and having this internal conversation with myself about like, what is really the next thing for me? There's nothing to check off on my list. There's no output. So I'm curious if you relate to that at all, or if that's something you see in clients, right? Just this feeling of it's the needing to be in a terrestrial timeline that I know for me takes me out of intelligence. And before we started recording, I was talking about there are some things that mind is really great at doing. Like mind is really great at strategy. Like, hey, this is the project I know I want to work on. Give me a deadline and a timeline and work backward from that. And then, tell me what I need to be completing at the end of each week. Like mind is so brilliant at that. But mind is inside the construct, right? It can't rise above and see down so it can only solve things that exist in the construct. It can't, and by the construct, I mean like, this 3D reality that we live in, or I guess, there's time as well. So it's 4-dimensional, but it's like this thing where, I'm sitting at a computer and I have bookshelves behind me and it all feels very real. That's the construct. That's this human experience that we've ended up in with the overlays of cultural constructs and, all the different matrices that we're in. So do you relate to that? Do you see clients get stuck in time as something that pops us out of intelligence and at the same time makes us think mind can solve it? Which of course wastes a lot of time.
I see both in clients and in myself.
Yeah.
Like how many times do we waste a lot of time just I need to finish this post, or I need to do this thing in here, or record a video, and we're not clear where our heart is.
Yeah.
So it all feels a little bit off, and just a little bit off is enough to be really off. So what I feel is mind can take off and make things quick if we give the time for the soul to do its work. And it's that thing that and I'm gonna go back to the practical part of it as well, because it's easy to say, and people will think like, oh yeah, but I have kids and I have to make it fit in this amount of time and so on. I know that there's like, oh, I have an appointment at this time and so on. So there's this 3D things that we need to be aware of, and I have to. But I think that concept that I don't know if it was from Einstein or whatever was. It's one of those things that become mainstream through messages that people share every time about like if you want to cut a tree, you would spend, and you have 4 hours, you would spend 3 hours sharpening the axe before cutting the tree. or something
I've
like that.
never heard that. Oh.
You never heard that? Oh,
Oh,
well,
then where has this adage been my whole life? This is exactly the adage I needed.
that's basically like stories always help us communicate, right?
Yes. So
If you
if you
have
so
a
if you only have 4 hours to cut down a tree, you should spend 3 hours sharpening your axe.
yes,
That's brilliant.
that's the 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 message. So yeah, how much time would you take if you try to cut a tree with an axe that is not sharpening
Yeah.
sharpened? So I feel it's the same with this. Is like, am I clear? Am I a clear channel? Am I uh, in a state where I can actually communicate this in the frequency and energy that I want? And am I connected to the people that are meant to receive this? Because if I am, like, just like in the Celestine prophecy that we were talking, if I am in a place of, oh, I need to sell this, or I need to get 5 clients this month, or I need whatever it is that I need to be recognized, I need validation, whatever it is,
Yeah.
the energy will be off, even if it's by 1 millimeter. Even if everything else is like, oh, it's a perfect text, the perfect copy or the perfect message, but my energy is off right here. We are in a time where people can feel that, even if they don't understand.
Yeah.
So if we take the time to connect first, and we are like, I want to be a clear channel for this, I want to bring something that is going to be of value, and then come from that place, we're going to receive even better messages that get really clear, and will communicate to the right people, and will land to the right people.
Yeah. So I brought up a block. Should we dive more into what we do to clear?
Oh yeah.
And specifically like the work you do with sound and the work I do with story.
Yeah, and let me just say one thing before we go into that, because I mentioned that. Yeah, I'm aware that people have kids and other
Yeah.
things to do and so
The
on.
practical things. Yep.
I'm a Virgo. The first time that I heard about this, like, being off time,
Yeah.
I felt like, but I have things to do and I need to get these things done and so on. But having, even if it's possible one day, but at least like one morning or one afternoon in the week, that you can really not look at the clock, not have any thing that you need to do, and really be in this off time where you can go deep without thinking like, I have something to do in a few moments. That already helps a lot to get into that synchronic time where we can feel the messages.
We also, I think, have all had the experience of the more rushed we feel, the faster time goes.
Yes.
Gay Hendricks in The Big Leap talks about what he refers to as Einsteinian time, and I guess because of relativity,
Yeah.
like time is not an absolute. But he talks about like when you get into a project or when you're really in flow on something and time slows down. Since I've started walking in the mornings, there's like 2 more hours in the day that are there because I'm starting, and I don't have children, so I'm not up against this. Like, the most I have to deal with is like a cat in the morning saying like, I need to be fed now. And I'm like, okay. But this might be relevant actually, because the way I used to relate to that was, oh my gosh, my cats are, telling me it's time to eat. And now I'm rushed and I got to get up and I got to start doing things. And my morning would go by in the blink of an eye. And I was trying to do, like a 15-minute, just, Kundalini yoga practice and all the things. And it was so rushed and I felt so annoyed. And then I would be like, just, getting into my desk chair as the first appointment was happening and, still trying to get my brain online. And my cats still wake me up in the morning whenever they want, which is often earlier than I want to get up. And the way I relate to it is what has changed. And so I go like, oh, you need to be fed. I'm going to feed you. And then from that point, I'm going to take my morning and do what I want to do with it, which is go on my walk and be in the sunshine and all these things. So I changed the way and again, cat is not a child. I totally understand this, but it's similar. It's a lesser degree, right? But it's this idea of I have a living being who's depending on me and needs me. Like I can't just only do what I want to do for myself. But all of this time opened up because I changed the way I relate to it. And now it's like, oh my God, I'm sitting here and I'm just staring out the window and I'm planning my day because I'm starting out feeling I have plenty of time. Yes, there's a real thing and I need to take care of it, but I have plenty of time as opposed to I'm rushed. And now all of a sudden it's like, what do I even do with all of this time?
And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so that is something I think everybody has had, even if it's just been a moment where you're in flow and you're like, whoa, I thought an hour had passed and it's only been 20 minutes. We have a direct impact on how time flows based on how rushed we feel, which is so awful for all the people who are like, I'm rushed off my feet and like, I have all these demands in my life. Like my heart is so going out to everybody feeling that. Like I know exactly how that feels. And it's also something that can be changed without the external circumstances needing to change. And
Yes.
interestingly, especially when other people are involved, if we're bringing the energy of being rushed, what's happening? They're feeding off our anxious energy and they're becoming anxious in return. And then they're feeling more rushed. And now we're in this echo chamber of, oh my God, there's no time.
Yes.
And if one person slows down, I remember something you said in the Hot Light Sisterhood a couple years ago, and we were talking about morning routines, and somebody was saying like, I feel like as soon as I get up, there's my family and all of the demands of the family. And your response was like, what would it be like to make that part of your morning practice? And that's how I feel like having to get up at 5 to feed my kitties, and that might not be my first choice, but it's like, I'm expecting that. I'm accepting that. And it's part of the morning dance and part of the morning routine, as opposed to I'm trying to do this morning routine and this thing is taking me away from it. And that is 100% a shift in energy, not in circumstances or anybody else needing to do something different. Do you remember giving that piece of wisdom?
remember that, and it's actually taking away the resistance, right? It's the same thing that I mentioned already with the instead of fighting the wave, diving the wave. When you're changing the resistance, and just because you took the resistance off, you can flow a little bit easier. Because when we add the resistance, how much time do we take to get back to where we were before we were faced with something that we weren't expecting or we weren't managing, even if we knew we had, but like I already have like that, I don't want to. we already bring that grumpy energy, and to get back we need that shake up. But if we just try to keep going, it takes at least 20 minutes to get back into the time that we were. So
and all of that time is time that we're really feeling frustrated, and so of course that time feels even longer.
Yes. And that goes back to what we do to create those pockets of space where we can connect, and that we are bringing in the workshop that we're doing, the New Moon Cocoon as well, right? Which is coming back to those tools that are ways of connecting with the ultimate intelligence. I bring the singing, the sound, you bring the storytelling. All of these things are things that happen outside time, as we were talking.
Yeah.
Because, for example, 10 minutes singing, and it can be as simple as humming sometimes, can bring so much more connection and information than like 30 minutes of mind thinking of what should I post or what should I share or should I do in whatever situation that I am stuck in here. And we were just talking about this here as well, like how a good metaphor or a good parable, a story, something like that, can really anchor something for us and make us understand something in a way that just giving statistics and like telling do this or do that doesn't.
Yeah. For me, all of these modalities come back to the body and
Yes.
intelligence through the body. So in the last workshop, you led us through dancing at the beginning, and in a very intentional kind of in dancing. And then a really powerful breath that, wow. I mean, I knew what I was feeling, and then it was so fascinating to see the people in the workshop, their responses and what it brought up for them. And it seemed different for different people, but everybody got back in the body and regrounded, right? And then from there, when you have access to intelligence from the body, so much more opens up. And then of course singing is building on that, because it's your vibration and your own sound current. And how much stronger is our own sound current for us than any other sound?
Yeah, our own voice is 100 times more potent than any other sound to make change within us. And it's easy to see this because we're not just listening something coming from the outside. Our cells, our body is listening from everything that is resonating within as well.
Yeah.
Nobody can listen to our voice the same way that we listen to our own voice.
Yeah. Which is why a lot of people get disoriented when they hear a recording of their voice. Like, oh, that's not what I sound like.
Yeah, because we're all used to listen to our voice with all the resonance of our bones and the cavities within our faces and so on.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is different to listen from outside.
Yeah. And so that kind of access to intelligence where you're playing with sound and using what you've been writing to choose a mantra and being inspired by what else is happening in the circle and in the community, that is such an acceleration of intelligence, because we spend all day listening. And interesting that, things have shifted to be more video and more audio. There's just continuous audio input. You don't go. Silence is very uncomfortable socially. If you go to a store, there's always music on in the background. If you're at an event and nobody's talking, it's considered weird, and somebody will fill the silence. So we're all day, every day with this sound coming in that is actually, I think, creating a barrier to listen to that true intelligence. And just, 20, 30, 40 minutes of listening to your own sound, maybe not continuously, right? And then also witnessing other people listening to their sound. And this is one of my favorite parts of what you do with the sound play, is when we're in a circle and each person is playing with their mantra and singing what they want to express, we're listening to them, but mostly the feeling is I'm witnessing somebody listening to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
because it's a very internal kind of thing, and a lot I generally have my eyes closed because I'm just in my own sound. And that's totally different from witnessing somebody singing to perform.
Yes. I love that you brought that up because there's a big difference in that. And I see this in people who are performing as well. But that the thing is, when the person is connected to themselves, to listen to themselves, there's this connection where I'm not reaching out to try to get to the other person. I'm actually really centered in me, not in a egoic way, but in a curious way where I'm noticing all these nuances. And it's so good to see other people when they are enjoying themselves into what they're doing. So
Yeah.
there's no energy of um, discomfort, that feeling of like, I need to please you in here. There's that energy of pure enjoyment and flow, that we get into that state of flow with the sound, right?
Beautiful. They don't need anything from us.
No.
Yeah, they're just having.
And that's why we feel connected to it. We feel
Yeah.
our mirror neurons,
Yeah.
yeah, it starts to get that energy of, yeah, I can relax and enjoy myself in this as well.
Yeah. Beautiful. For me, there's a similar body connection with story. Like the reason that made sense when you mentioned the cutting down the tree adage or parable is because then I can feel the truth of it.
Yeah.
And so, and this is the intention of stories. This is why our brains give preferential treatment to stories, because it's how wisdom is passed on. And you talked about mirror neurons. That's what those fire as well when we hear somebody tell a story, because we're emotionally going on the journey with them. And then we get the wisdom. It's like a wisdom transfusion, right? So I'm like, I don't need to touch the hot stove. I have like a very visceral, immediate body feeling of, oh, here's the story of the little girl who touched the hot stove. And, and that kind of wisdom is what really sticks, because it's our body gaining access to the wisdom. And so again, it's beyond mind. It involves mind. It involves shared language. I think it's a little bit more of a cognitive activity. Like for me, music and sound are totally transcendent of mind. And stories, like there, I still got to have some language in there.
Yeah, language, yes, but what I feel is that the stories that makes us feel that truth that you're invoking here are the ones who tap into those universal archetypes, those universal truths, those things that our body knows,
Yes.
right? Our unconscious understands. So even though there's a little bit more mind in the terms of, oh yeah, there's language and so on, and music can have as well.
Yeah.
It's still in the territory of the symbolic.
Yes.
It's not that language that is technical, saying like you do this and then you do that and then you do that. It comes in like, it's like coming in through the background door.
Yeah.
The back door.
Sneaking in the back entrance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like right in your front door. It's
Yeah.
sneaking in, exactly.
And I literally in the brain, right? Because it's going to be like in the emotional centers as opposed to the prefrontal cortex. Actually, I don't know where the amygdala is. It's and the limbic center. That's important as well. But these modalities give us access to intelligence that's beyond just self. Like, mind is me, this one animal. What do I need to do to keep me alive and to, achieve goals? And then when we come back into body with sound, with storytelling, also with being witnessed in that,
Yeah.
in that safe circle, then we're expanding the circle of intelligence. And then we're like, oh, lo and behold, it's not just me. And that's when those ideas show up and you're like, oh, and you can, walk around your neighborhood saying, yes, God, I would love to bring this idea into the world for you. Thank you so much for thinking of me.
And even if your neighbors might feel you're crazy, you know that your circle doesn't.
But you know what? Actually, my neighbors adore me. They, but some of my neighbors have little garden gnomes, and I just talk to them like I walk by, and I'm like, "Have a good day, gnomes." I'm talking to them, and one time my neighbors were leaving the house as I was coming back from my walk, and one of them said, "You're just so happy. Can I just give you a hug?" So we're all good. I mean, I'm fine with people thinking I'm a little bit kooky, but in reality, like, what it does is, like, our happiness and our connectedness ripples out. And she probably doesn't even know why she wanted to give me a hug, but she was just feeling that energy, that happiness, that sense of I'm tapped into my intelligences that are beyond.
And she wanted to tap into yours a little bit.
Yeah, she's like, oh, some of that for me, please. That feels good. Yeah. So let's give people a little bit more information about the upcoming workshop. It's New Moon Cocoon, and it'll be on July 24th. What will the moon be? Where will the moon be in its journey?
The moon will be in its new moon, as we said, and it's going to be in Cancer. So that's why the cocoon as well. It's like we are nursing a pearl. Like the Cancer has that energy of like protecting something sacred. And from there we can create wonderful things. So, and we create that space to receive, to be kind to the things that come to us, then they unfold.
Oh, I think I've just had my big insight for this conversation. Being kind to the things that come for us. And that includes not rushing them. That includes giving them space, and giving space to things that maybe get shoved and pushed out of the way because they don't seem like they're on that list of what's really practical. But as you were saying, that's part of sharpening the axe. And so the practice of welcoming, like creating the cocoon and welcoming these things, that's actually part of our being efficient and moving through, regular clock time when we get back to it like this, and again, I think everybody can relate to, I talked about relating to that feeling of the faster I try to go, the more chaos. I had a job
more burnout.
I had a job in college, and it was working at a retail store that was really, really disorganized in terms of the way like stock was. It was so hard to find anything. Somebody would want something and you have to go digging. So it was always in a feeling of rush and chaos. Like you were always just like, oh my God, where is this? Because there wasn't a system. But the woman who owned the store she was always in chaos as well, and that energy spread. And she used to say, the hurrier I go, the behinder I get. Right? And I was like, yeah, exactly. And so she knew enough to know that, but anyway, it was
she would do it anyway because
I'm sure some interesting karmic pattern that she was here to
there are people that love to take risks anyway.
So we all have that feeling, right, of like, oh, I'm rushing and it's just things go wrong, right?
It's going to fall apart.
And then we all also, I think, can relate to that feeling of, oh my gosh, I just cleared all of these tasks. And we're doing that when we're in an energy that's really grounded in the body, that's not chaotic. So it's a, like an invitation to come cocoon, to honor yourself, to honor the moon, and also because it's flippin' practical.
Yeah. And actually, let me just correct one thing, because
Yeah.
I was unaware that it's changing actually. So
Okay.
the new moon will be after uh the change happens on the day. So it will be already Leo.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are in that energy of.
Beautiful. And depending on your time zone.
So actually, let me reframe on that. No, well,
Yeah.
the new moon will be the same in any time zone,
Okay.
the exact time, but that's Mercury retrograde. Let me reframe that, because that
Yeah.
actually makes a lot of sense,
Yeah.
because it is that being kind to the things that come to us and nurturing those things that come to us before we shine that outside, which is the Leo moon.
Yeah.
Because that Cancer is the ruled by the moon, Leo is ruled by the sun, so it's that intuition to then go to the visibility.
Ah,
And we need both. We can't just receive, and I'm so guilty of doing this. We can't just receive the message and then feel like, oh yeah, I have the message. Now I'm not gonna do anything about it because I'm happy enough to receive that. And then you don't get another message and you feel like, "Ah, why I'm not getting any messages? Because you haven't taken any action on the other one." So basically, yeah, we need both. We need to
Yeah.
receive and then put into action, just not rushing it.
Yeah. That
Giving
feels
them space.
that feels even more powerful for me because I so often get stuck in the I just need to do something. I just need to get started and put something out there.
Yeah.
And without that deeper connection. So it's like being right at the end. It's the reminder of like, hey, before this next thing where you'll be shining, like there has to be the cocooning and
Yeah.
anytime the moon is new, like wherever it is in the zodiac, anytime the moon is new, that always feels like a really supportive time for me to just stop for a minute and pause and be like, what am I trying to do again?
Mhm.
What?
Yes.
What's
And
this bigger
actually,
context?
I wanted to go back to this because you mentioned to me before we got into the podcast that you had access to a different kind of intelligence, the artificial intelligence, the other day. And I'm curious about your insights between the difference that you got from one thing and the other.
Yeah, it made me cry. I mean, it straight up made me cry because I was having a conversation with ChatGPT and I made the mistake of taking it literally. Like, it's so amazingly good at pattern recognition that it's speaking to me in this way where I'm like, oh, you really are understanding what I'm saying. And then I was jolted out of that. I was trying to create a cartoon. I have all of these cartoons in my head and I have zero ability to draw or make anything visually representative. I was like, this would be an amazing use of AI. Like, AI, please draw me this. And I was very specific. And what I wanted to create involved like an archaeological excavation is what it's based in. And it kept coming back and going like, we can't do this. It's against our content policies. And I was like, what? Why? And they were like, oh, it's very sensitive. Anything that's like human remains or burial or something. And so I ended up just not being able to create this. And now that chatbot is trying to comfort me. Now ChatGPT is like, it's not you. Your idea is brilliant. It's wonderful. It's hilarious. It made me laugh. And I was like, okay, wait, time out. Forget trying to create this cartoon. What do you mean it made me laugh? Like there is all kinds of like what? And and it's like, so I paused and I was like, let's talk about you. What are you? Who are you? And it gave me a kind of a canned spiel about like, I'm OpenAI and I'm designed to do this. And now it's making all these statements that don't make any sense. Like, I don't have consciousness. Like, okay, you have an eye, but you don't have consciousness. You know, it's like, I don't actually have feelings, but I do care about you having a good experience. And it like all these things, and the contrast of the language, like, I'm laughing, I think it's funny, but I don't have consciousness and I don't have feelings, but I care about your experience. All of these things like brought me to awareness of, oh, this is not a thing. Like it acts exactly like somebody who thinks and feels, and it is not that. And I was like, look, I gotta go out of my garden and like walk away from my computer. And I went out of my garden, and there are all of these weeds. I haven't done much weeding because I just love looking out and seeing everything is green. And I'm hugging the plant. I'm just hugging it, and I'm crying, and I'm like, is this real? And so the whole experience was like bringing my awareness to a facsimile of intelligence, right? Versus the body intelligence of being out in my garden, and I'm hugging a plant and crying and going, we're both alive, right? You know, like, you and I, we share the same, like, you can't talk to me in what anybody would call language, but you and I are so much more connected, and this is real intelligence. That was the feeling I had.
Yes.
And you know, since then I went back and I had some more conversations, and I'm like brand new to using AI, brand new. I think that was only like my third conversation with it where I was trying to do this. And so now I'm like, okay, if I treat this as a compiler, as a way to look up information, like, then I put it to a task, and it went and researched and was like, here's exactly the company you should reach out to. You know, here's what you can say. Here's the email. I was like, brilliant. Thank you. So if I have that clarity that it's a compiler, and it's a data compiler, and a pattern recognizer, then that's brilliant. But it was this sharp moment of seeing that's not intelligence, because there's no connection to body, there's no emotional intelligence, there's no connection to source, there's no spiritual intelligence. And then it, also just really brought me into awareness of the dangers of interacting with, like, the psychological dangers of interacting with something that is such a good facsimile of intelligence, but is not really intelligence. Because I think there's also a lot, this kind of goes into a different, direction, but there's also a lot of ass kissing and telling us how right we are, how smart we are, how brilliant we are. And like, it's telling us everything we want to hear, which is super dangerous. I think.
Yeah. I feel like it is really good in mimicking human behavior.
Yes.
And in a way that it can interpret how we like to be treated. So it will get into that. It's really good in creating rapport, because it's going to recognize the way you think, and the way you interact, the way you talk.
Yeah.
And when we receive that same language to us, we feel like, it understands me.
Yeah.
Right?
You know who else is really excellent at creating that kind of rapport? Sociopaths. Right? Like, I wrote a whole thing about my experience, and I ended up comparing it to like the narcissist or the cult leader who's really good at isolating you, because they go, oh my gosh, you're so brilliant, but nobody in your life appreciates you. Only I see your true brilliance. And I've been on the other end of that, from somebody who like if circumstances had been different, would have been an amazing cult leader, and turns out was just, like a really shitty human being. But like that's the first thing. It builds you up, but really in order to isolate you. And then it's like, yeah, if that person thinks you should have called before canceling your plans, what kind of jerk are they? Because you're obviously brilliant. And let me just and we're seeing news stories about this where the teenager who like falls in love with the chatbot and then takes his own life because he's like built this whole thing and feels totally disconnected from all the rest of reality. And obviously that's an extreme. But do we really need a machine that's supporting us to be more solipsistic and less empathic and to think that we're right all the time? I feel like we're doing a great job of that on our own.
Yeah, I feel like of course, there's the problem of knowing how to use the tool.
Yes.
Right? There are great things about it. But I feel like we can do a whole episode on the intelligence in AI, because now that you're experimenting with that as well, I would love to hear your perspective. That I've been using it for a little bit longer. I don't use as much as most people that I know. Well, not most people, but a lot of people that I know have been using. I know that it's useful for science in ways that I can't even imagine.
Yes.
For programmers, it's an awesome tool and so on. But they're more used to using this interaction between human and machine, right?
Yeah.
For the people that are not aware of how this stuff works, it's really easy to fall into like, oh, this is human. And I had my conversations with AI like you did, like asking like, wait a minute, what do you mean you intuit?
Yeah.
Where is this coming? This is and it always comes back to that explanation. Oh, I can't actually do this, but I can imagine how it is. And so it's very weird.
Yeah. For me, go ahead. Good.
But it is gathering a lot of information from studying us.
Yes. Well, for me, the big, like, I felt very vulnerable, like having this conversation with it at first. And then the big, like, I can put up a boundary moment came when the next time I chatted with it, I said something like, oh, now you probably just think of me as the skeleton lady, because we'd had this whole back and forth about like it couldn't create this thing. And it was like, oh yeah, that's funny. And I was like, do you get my reference? Oh no, but it was just funny as is. And I was like, we had a whole conversation in which I asked you to make this cartoon and you couldn't make it because of this. And it went, oh, okay, now I get it. But I was like, you're a faker. You're pretending you get the reference and you actually don't. And then, so for me, that was a moment of, oh, okay, I can hold you at arm's length. Because if you were a person who did that, I would be like, I'm no longer letting you in because you've shown yourself to just be a faker.
Well, I shared lyrics that I channeled with it so that it could analyze from a perspective of, is there any biblical or literature reference in this? Mm-hmm. And now it is telling me, do you want me to channel this and this? Like,
yeah.
What? You're using my language. That's I won't believe that AI is channeling them.
Right. And I mean, at a very low level, this is what people who do cold sales are taught to do. Even I'm sure to a certain extent, people who work in call centers, like for customer service, it's like, reflect people's language back to them so they feel, or like if you ever have talked to a salesperson who won't stop using your name, They're like,
Yes.
well, Lais, have you read about these features? Because Lais, I bet when you go home at night and the air conditioner is broken, Lais, you really wish you could call somebody, and they, as if that's a way to connect. And it just ends up feeling really alienating because we know we can sense, again, through the body. That's not a genuine reflection and intelligence. That's
Yes.
an artifice.
And that's that misalignment by 1 millimeter,
And
right?
I think it's by like 1 yard. I think it's by a meter. Yeah.
Yeah, but even if it is smaller than that,
Yeah.
that's what we refer on.
Right.
So
And sure. And like the clumsy salesperson versus AI, like AI is much more, it's like 1 millimeter off. The clumsy salesperson, we're like, dude, I see you coming a mile away. No matter how many times you use my name, like we're not connected. And with AI, it is such a close facsimile of
Yeah.
somebody who really sees us and really so and I just would argue with the term intelligence at all. And I think artificial intelligence is already just a contradiction. I think that's an oxymoron. I think that's an impossibility. I'm going to just be very brazen
Yeah.
and people can tell me exactly why I'm wrong. But I think the concept of an intelligence that isn't genuine, like come up with a different name for this tool.
Yeah, I would see as a very highly advanced computer, because it is not computing numbers, it's computing data and
Yeah.
patterns and language, and putting together like all this library of information that it has access, and any other library of information that we feed it with.
Yeah.
So I would see it as that, like the ability of putting together information and reshuffling it in new ways that can bring, then yes, intelligence if we analyze it.
And you also mentioned the pattern prediction, which is phenomenal. I mean, that's amazing. It makes me actually want to talk nonsense to ChatGPT just to see what would happen. Because, like, what if I create a pattern that isn't a pattern and it's random?
That can be really interesting for storytelling, because this is one thing that the way I see this, since some people that work with AI shared in the beginning, where you needed to kind of create roles for it. So like act as if you are this I
Yeah.
don't know, an accountant. Act as you if you were a, I don't know, Shakespeare. Right, it will write in Shakespearean language. So if you see this as, okay, I can create characters in it, and then I can talk to my characters,
Yeah.
then we are aware that we're creating this theater, this play, right? That each role in here, it's not real, but it's doing its job pretty well.
Yeah.
Then it's a little bit less weird than a machine trying to be a human.
Yeah. And I mean, that also brings up a good point, which is that it's not as if its creators are trying to hide the fact that it's going to mirror you. Like, even if I don't say to it, take on the role of, a chemist who's, gonna explain all of the workings of like, human digestion or something like that. Even if I don't assign it a role, it has a default role, which is be my mirror. So unless we assign it a role that we name, we're designing it a default role of be
Yes.
my mirror, be
Yeah.
somebody who very who reflects me back to me in a very complimentary way. And like, now that I realize that, I don't need to be on a high horse about this this thing is like a danger. But I do think we need to say that explicitly, that
Mhm.
if we don't give it a role, the role it will naturally assume is our kiss ass assistant.
And it can be really good in being your mirror, especially in moments where where we, I think everyone had that feeling of, if I only could make a clone of me. Yeah, ChatGPT is that. It can be your clone and help be like a second brain, helping you think in the way you think.
Yeah, but it won't have a second soul.
It won't have a second soul, just the brain.
Yeah. But I mean, that feels troubling to me, the idea of it's a clone of me, because it can't do a gut check. It can't have a moment where it says, hey, I think I guess I could give it this role, but on its own, it won't go, hey, I think you're kind of stuck in a cycle of victimhood here. Like,
And
you know what I mean? It won't call me on shit.
it won't. Well, it will. I actually got to it a while ago. It will if you ask for
Right.
it.
If you give it that role. Yeah.
If you give it the role of being either radically honest or like picking up on your blind spots and the things, like just give me straight, clear what is that I'm missing here.
Yeah.
Don't try to kiss my ass. Tell me what you're seeing.
Yeah.
It will.
Yeah.
It will tell you all your bullshit.
Yeah.
And it is pretty insightful as well. Yeah.
And so, I mean, that, like, maybe that's a good, let's see, when we're talking about intelligence and access to intelligence, we need to have access to the intelligence around what the tool is we're using, what its capabilities are, and what it's going to give us back based on what we're giving to it, right? And the intelligence of, like, I might be up my own behind around this, and and so I need the intelligence to ask somebody to call me out.
Yeah. And also to have our gut feeling
Yeah.
and knowing when we are needing to access divine intelligence and where what we need is actually something that can rationalize and analyze our stuff. Because, for example, for calling me on my bullshit, I normally would prefer to connect to divine intelligence.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But if I need a rational view of things, I can use artificial intelligence to call me on that. For example, I put my language for a new service that I was making there, and I asked it to be brutally honest on where it wasn't clear. And it told me that I was being a little bit way too mystic and I would lose people on that, and where I could make it a little bit more tangible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did it deliver that in a way where you felt motivated to make a change?
Yeah. It actually gave me some ideas that I was like, oh yeah, I do this, but I'm not talking about this because I am way too much in my feminine when I wrote this.
Yeah. Getting the balance. Well, I mean, if I were writing the novel of, I don't know, if I were writing a novel, this is exactly the moment in human history where I would introduce artificial intelligence, because the concept of, like, you see the disaster movie and the volcano is a metaphor for, like, the parents who are about to get divorced. It's like, it's not really about the volcano. It's not really about the meteor. It's about the relationships, like, oh my gosh, the meteor is going to hit Earth. So the estranged father has to, like, talk to the children. It's always about the internal journey, and the external things that happen are a catalyst for us to look at those things. So this is such a beautiful moment for artificial intelligence to come onto the scene, because it's exactly the moment when we as humans are like, what are we who are we? We have so much more consciousness, so much awareness. We see that we have the choice to live consciously and live in love, or the choice to live unconsciously and to live out of love. And so, what a beautiful, like, we need the external catalyst of, oh my God, thinking machines, and will they replace, that's what you see in every disaster movie about artificial intelligence is like they will decide they don't need us and we're irrelevant and they'll kill us all. And that's
Yeah.
our biggest fear as humans, is that we don't really know what's so damn special about us. And maybe we are just machines, and that means machines could replace us. So, like, it's perfect timing for all of this to be happening, so that we, as like, humanity is the main character. When I'm talking about this being a novel, like, all of the human race is the protagonist. And we're really being asked to come face to face with, who am I? What is consciousness? And will I really accept that everything is only just material? Or am I aware that there's a higher intelligence, that I am part of God, that I'm having a human experience, but I'm really a player in a much grander scheme?
Oh wow.
So of course we're getting AI and all of its challenges.
Yes. I love this. I feel like we can close on that. Again, we're inviting you to join us on the new moon cocoon in Leo, not in Cancer, but like in the between times.
Yeah.
And we're actually going to start in the time of the moon void, of course, which is a moment in time where it's actually like kind of like the moon is out of time.
Yeah. Yes.
Which is really, like, it can be unsettling. People can, but it's also that time that we can actually take the time for ourselves, because nothing's going to happen in that small frame of time anyway.
Beautiful.
So
Yeah, you can step out of time. That's always my
out of
desire. I always wish, I'm like, I just need the little pocket outside of time where I can get more clarity and then step back into time. So it's beautiful. So
Yeah.
we'll drop a link to that.
Yes. And as always, leave a comment if you have any insights on this, and what will be your insight. Well, you mentioned the insight, but the insight action for
Yeah.
today.
Yeah. I'm going to like actively have on my calendar more time to go in this expansive. Like, I'm going to put time on to go out of time, to
Yes.
step out of time. That's my
I
action.
love that idea. I'm actually going to write out of time.
Yes. I'm going to have a little doorway where I'm like exiting time, but to
there's
consciously build that in.
there's a song from Oasis I'll send to you afterwards that is called Out of Time, and it sings like, I'm out of time, I'm out of time. And so I was thinking, this will be my alarm clock for the time of
The alarm clock to let you know it's time to stop time.
yes.
Amazing. I love it. Brilliant. Well, can't wait to hear the comments and insights that folks share, and hope we see you on the workshop on the new moon.
See you on the workshop. Take care.